Hello everyone and welcome back to the Little Quilter. Today we're going to be continuing work on the ugly sweater quilt, and I've had a bit of a snafu. I thought that I was going to be able to finish the border fabric, and I was a little bit concerned about this fabric right here. So the laundry basket fabrics, bisque is what it's called, and unfortunately I didn't think I was going to have enough, so I did order some more fabric, and it was supposed to come in today where I was going to have some time to do some quilting, and it has not. So I do think it'll be in probably later, in a couple of days. I think it's just gotten a little bit delayed, but what that means is I have like maybe 2 or 3 of these left to do, and I can't do them, so I can't finish the border, which is a bit annoying. Now, what does this mean for the rest of the quilt? Well, what I am doing today is I had a lot of fabric left over, and I had this really beautiful panel here, and I just really wanted to use it. I know I had talked about using the previous quilt backing that I've got, and I decided it was just such a contrast from this quilt, of just such a traditional quilt, and this is not a traditional quilt. I feel like this ugly sweater, paper piecing, the colors got, I've got bright orange and pink in here, and it's a Christmas quilt, and it's beautiful, but it is a very modern quilt. And so I was looking at this panel and was like, I really wish I could have used this, and I've decided to use it on the back of the quilt. So what I'm basically going to do is just piece together a back using the pieces that I have left, and I've got quite a few, so I'm going to do just big panels, not getting too particular about size, and if something doesn't fit, I'll just cut it, and that way it shouldn't take too long to piece this together. So I'm going to put this in the center though, because again, I just love everything about it, and I think that for an ugly sweater quilt, having this on the back is going to be just a fun way to really be able to explore some of those fabrics and those patterns in a bigger way, but also just keep that sort of fun uniqueness that's going on with this quilt. So let's go ahead and jump into that. I'll show you guys what I've already got done. Okay, so here is the layout that I've got going on. So I've left the main body of the quilt down, and you can see this strip, which is not attached. I've just got a little bit more to go on that edge. This side over here is attached all the way except for here. So again, I'm sort of waiting. I thought about going ahead and doing this line of green and just not overlapping it, but I think I need to wait and just do it the right way, so I'm waiting. So I'm leaving it down to sort of help me size this out, and I've got my middle panel right there that's just so gorgeous, and then these are just the strips of fabric that I have left over. So I know that this back is going to be kind of a busy, crazy back, and a lot of bright colors and some punches in there. And I think that I've decided that because it is a more modern quilt, and so this is kind of a more modern, in some ways kind of an old thing to piece together this scrap for the back of the quilt. But the other thing that I think it's going to do is with all of that busy fabric, it's going to help to just let me focus on the front of the quilt whenever I start stitching on this. So I'm not going to be as worried because all the busy fabrics are going to hide more of the stitching on the back, and I'm not going to have to worry as much about how it's looking on the back versus being able to focus all of my attention on the front. And I think that that's going to be important for this quilt. I am having a bit of a hard time trying to decide what I want to do with this quilt. I think I want to do in the sashing some ribbon candy because I feel like ribbon candy is very Christmassy, but There is not a lot of room in the background of each of the sweaters, and all of that paper piecing I think is somewhat distracting. So I think it needs to be something fairly simple, because it's not going to really stand out a lot, I feel like. So I'm trying to decide what to do, whether I should do something different or just keep doing the same. So let me know what your thoughts are with the background consisting of just the sweaters. I had thought about doing an all over pattern, but I don't know. I just feel like this is such a special quilt. I want to do free motion on it, and I want to do some more stuff on it than just an all over pattern. I love my all over patterns. I also don't have an all over pattern chosen, and I don't want to do the same one that I did last year, so I would have to order it and have it shipped here, and that is another thing that I just don't have that time on my side. So let's go ahead and jump into some more piecing and seeing where we're at with our fabric, okay? Here we go. Alright, so here is what I've got so far, and of course it looks it's pretty busy. It's a pretty busy thing happening here. I do like at least having this center one that's pretty nice and large, and still having some of these larger pieces in here. Again, it's just the back of the quilt, and I think it's just going to be very fun. I am having a little bit of difficulty trying to decide how far to go over the edges, so I'm definitely going to continue to extend it out. So I'm going to continue to extend the quilt out, and I usually go at least 5 inches out from where I think that border is going to end, and that just gives me some wiggle room whenever I am quilting on the long arm machine, that I've got that little bit of room for the quilt to move just a bit. Now, obviously I pin it down, and I do everything to keep it nice and straight, but it's just nice to have that bit of overhang, and also to allow the clips to grab onto it to hold that bottom part tight. So I'm definitely still extending this out, but I think it'll be easier if I could do this where it's a little bit more in a straight line than kind of piecemealing it like I have been. It has been fun and just very, there was not a lot of thinking in this sewing, which is kind of nice when you can just sit down and sew some strips together and grab a piece of fabric, cut it however you want, put it on there and go, versus a lot of the other quilting that I've been doing has been very, meticulous in making sure I have a large enough fabric for the piece itself. So that's really, really fun, and I do think it's going to be a fun background. Definitely if you were a kid, so I think they would really enjoy this background, just a lot of fun and joy from it. So I know it's a wild one, but I'm going to keep working on it and see what we can get.